All right, guys, in today's video is going to be really quick, hopefully, and that's going to be getting your Davinci Resolve project server connected properly on Tailscale network. All right, so just real quick, right, if you was following my other videos, I have Davinci Resolve project server running on my VM machine here. And so what we're going to do is we are going to do a quick configuration change in order to get it to work for all your Tailscale devices. Okay. Like I said, I did some digging and it took me a bit of some time, but I was able to get it. All right. So let's start with, I was going to actually start with Davinci Resolve showing that it wouldn't connect, but actually I think it's just better if we just go ahead and jump straight to the configuration. Right, so let me go ahead, go to the VM machine. So this is the VM machine. As you see, I already have the project server up. First and foremost, you might see some posts that talk about needing to change the network interface to be on your Tailscale IP. To me, that didn't work or make any change. This is actually not the important part. I honestly don't even know what this is even for. I tried looking, but I was just like, I just give up. I just want it to work. So you don't need this. The important thing is the database, which is like, was it Postgres or Post something, right? There's a configuration file you need to change to have it listen to the Tailscale like interface in order to accept connections to the database. So what we need to do is we're going to go ahead, jump into our folder here. Let me close that extra one, right? So let's go ahead and go to your local disk, right? You're going to go, this should work. Any Windows computer, well, a Mac, I assume too. Maybe you might have to play around with the folder locations, but right, this should work on any computer. Don't matter VM machine or not, right? Or like, special network case, right? As long as it's on the Tailscale network, this should work. But you're gonna go basically where that database stuff is installed. So local disk, right? Program files here go PostgreSQL, right? PostgreSQL, right? And then what you're looking for, okay, you're going to be looking for in this data folder here, this PostgreSQL.conf, right? Like a configuration file. So let's go ahead and let's open it up. If you double click it now, your computer typically isn't set to open, doesn't know what program you use for it. Just open Notepad, doesn't matter. Just use that real quick. And then here you go. Here's the important part, right? You need to add this line right here. Host all, and then this specific one here, this 164.0.0/10, that is Tailscale's like dedicated network in the world. Okay, so what this will allow is any device on the Tailscale network, right? Obviously, right, it would have been nice if you could have restricted this to specifically like some like subnet or whatever that you're happen to be on or whatever, right? You can't, it was just too much hassle. So I just settled for this, right? Because at the end of the day, obviously like the device is only accessible to like the Tailscale networks that you are signed into, right? That have access, right? That you authenticated onto your network access thingamabob, right? So this was probably the best that I could come up with here, but just add this line here exactly as it is, right? You don't, there's this, you need this 164.0.0, right? Because this represents all of Tailscale, basically. And then you're going to save it. Now, here's something that's super important, okay? Once you edit this file, if you ever mess with the project server, like this, for example, this file network interface thing, if you ever change any settings on here, it's probably going to wipe this away, okay? It for whatever reason, even when I changed it, when I changed the network interface to this one, right, it still would jack up this file, like it still wouldn't work. I needed to just have this in here specifically, okay? So just keep that in mind, right? If for whatever reason you make some odd change on here, right, double check this file because it probably nuked this line and you need to re-add it back, okay? So I would even like probably like make a look like a text file on your desktop to say, give it the location of this and say add this line back in here if not there, or if connection to project server is no good, right? Something like that. Okay, that's what you're gonna want. The only last thing now, you just need to check, which for me, it was already like that, but that could have been because of like me messing around with that interface thing, that maybe it might have changed it. But some people were also saying that in that same folder, if you go to, where is it? Yeah, the postgresql.conf .conf file, right? If you open this up, you need to make sure, right? You can double check it. It was already there for me. Don't know, maybe yours might be different. But this right here, listen addresses, right? Is you need to make sure it has a star, and this would make it listen to basically all of them, right? All of the all of the addresses that's going to be like on the interface or whatever, right? Maybe here, if you was feeling a bit squeamish and you wanted to absolutely restrict and you got all your things static IP addresses, you could probably add them and add them here, like comma separated. You could probably do something like that, sure. But if you at least have this as a star, then it should accept all connections that are made to it on the Tailscale network, right? Which again, right, just to reiterate, your device is only accessible to the to the devices you install Tailscale and authenticate obviously your credentials on, and then obviously there's like 101 ways to further restrict that, like this being one of them. Okay, but as long as you make sure those two things are done, you should be able to connect just fine. So now what we're going to do is, just to show you, right, I have my Davinci Resolve thing already up here. So this is click back. There we go. Right. Here's my Davinci Resolve, locally on my computer. Right. So here's that project folder that's on the VM machine. Okay. And as you can see here, it says it's not able to connect. And I originally had it connected directly via the host name. And that's just because of like how Tailscale, I'm dealing with an issue on how Tailscale like interferes. But what we're just going to also do now is we're just going to go ahead now and use the Tailscale IP address. So let's go ahead and add it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first, I need to install Tailscale on this computer. So 1 second here. Let me just knock that out. All right, with this computer now on the Tailscale network, let's go ahead now and attempt to connect to it. So, like I said, this is the project server, right? That one, and you can see it is connected via the host name, which would work as a direct connection. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to, just to show that it works, right? We're going to add a new project server. I am going to give it the same project name, right? But again, right, this is just to show that it most certainly is going to work. I'm going to now give it the Tailscale IP address that I have for where the what's it called? The project server is installed on. Okay, so obviously, the only way this would work, and like I said, you can try it yourself if you want. If you have your project server installed on another computer and you have them on Tailscale, if you tried without changing the configuration file, right? If you try to do this, it wouldn't work. Okay, but by just making those quick changes, you might have to. You know what? Actually, I just remembered too. One more thing you do have to do is you got to restart the Postgres service. All right. I'm actually glad, because in case if you have an issue, right? So what you're going to do is, I think you could just search services, right? So yeah, see, you're like right here, right? So if you just search for services, if you know how to pull up with the running services on Windows, this is what it will kind of look like, right? And what you need to do, I can't believe I actually just almost forgot about this, right? You need to find that PostgreSQL service, and you need to restart it. So as you see, I found it right here. It is the PostgreSQL 6413, right? You just right click, hit restart, and after it's done restarting and it's running, right, that should load up your configuration change, right? Because that's important, right? After you change these configurations, make sure that you do that. So again, right, pull up Windows services, right? If you just go to the search bar, do services, right, you should be able to pull it up. The little window come up, look for PostgreSQL, and then right click and restart. All right, so that way you can make sure that the configuration was loaded. I don't know why I forgot about that, but okay, cool. So then once that's there, yeah, like I said, name of the project folder, the Tailscale IP address, right, that Tailscale has for that computer, hit connect, and boom, There it is. All right. So let me make sure. So that was that's that one. So it should be this one here. And look, as you can see, it is connected and it is using the Tailscale IP address, right? So this is super convenient. I already have this set up on my laptop where if when I'm outside of my house or something and I have the time to and want to work on one of my stuff or projects or whatever, I could just pop it up. My laptop's able to connect to my project server at home, and boom, we are done and good. So that's it. That is how you actually set it up. Like I said, it was real quick and easy. It's just as simple as just navigating. The big bulk of it was just navigating to where those configuration files were for PostgreSQL, and then just adding this one specific line was the meat and potatoes, right? Host all, the actual Tailscale subnet, right? And then I guess the encryption ref or whatever it's called. But yeah, that's that. So just make sure you add that and you be good to go. Restart the PostgreSQL service or restart your computer if you if you need to. And then there you go. Then you should be able to connect just fine with using that IP address. So with that being said, or as you saw too, like the host name. Remember I said, guys, host names in all other videos. Host names go a long way. So with that being said, you guys take care. That's all I have for today.